Hello, this is Joe. Wanted to give you an intro onto what my current project is. It's a half-scale W.A.R Corsair, a lot like Dino-Don's, but different, but similar. I'll let you know, I'll give you the introduction, what it is, what I've been doing. I bought it about 3 months ago, and when you buy something that's 99% complete and almost ready for an FAA inspection, you look closely at it, you find some things that maybe need to be fixed. Anyway, let me show you what it is, and I'll tell you what I've been working on, why it's not done yet, and what I have left to do. Okay, so overall it's a half scale built from plans. W.A.R Corsair built, or the plans were made by a company called W.A.R. W.A.R Aircraft Replica, I think is the name. Let's see. This one, they're normally designed around an O200. This one, the previous owner, seems like he was a great guy, but passed away before he got FAA certified. But he put a Rotec R2800, which is interesting because 2800 I think was the displacement of the real Corsairs, making like 2,000 horsepower, if memory serves. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to show you also the top cowl because interesting, Dino-Don is working on fixed cowling that looks like this, but Chuck Ingersoll, the guy who passed away, I bought it from his estate, built these when he put the Rotec on it. Right now it's not quite, it's pretty close to the right position, but those sit open and they're just kind of spring loaded, so when you get flying and you get some airspeed, they close up and they leave a little bit of gap, so it won't be quite as nice as Dino-Don's doing, but I think it'll still look pretty good. And of course you've got access here, and I think it's going to look really nice with the radial in the front. It already looks nice to me. Anyway, I took the wooden prop off and put on the three-bladed warp drive prop that came with it. Chuck was working on a spinner, and the spinner and the plate that the spinner needs to go over is pretty heavy. So 2 pounds, 15.5, basically 3 pounds. And I know that the spinner that Dino-Don made is nowhere near 3 pounds. So I've asked him to make, if he could, take one of his thin wall caps and weld it onto a sleeve, and then I'll do the rest inside as far as making them out. But you can see this is quite the feat of machine work that Chuck did, and it is awesome. I mean, it's almost complicated enough that it is like it's like it's almost a variable pitch prop. The hub's got so many pieces to it, but the only problem, the thing that makes it weigh a lot, is that these are thick. I suppose if I had time and a little lathe, I could chuck them up. I could probably thin them all out, but I don't even trust myself to do a lot of the careful detail work, and I don't really want to mess that up. So if the airplane ends up tail heavy, I've got the way to balance it out. So that's what's going on with the front. It does look pretty cool. I gotta say, it looks really cool when it's all set up. Yikes. I gotta hand it to Chuck. This is very, very close tolerance. Well machined. It is beautiful. Alright, all I'm doing is going to kind of throw this together, slip it on the front of the airplane. Yeah, how cool would that be? Sweet. Anyway, so needless to say, I haven't bolted on the prop, but it's pretty tight. And these bolts here, they thread into this. Chuck also machined this out, and these thread into that. So they kind of clamp this together. In addition to the regular prop bolts, which are required still. Okay, so here's the cowling. Let's get this off, take a look at the engine. All right, Rotec radial. Chuck had, if I remember right, the mechanic, great guy, that went over the plane with me when I bought it, said, from his best recollection, I think, they bought this engine mount from Rotec, and it was for a different airplane, and they modified the ends of it to fit on the same swing away mounts that Don has. So I did tidy it up a little bit, but honestly, Chuck had a lot of this really cleaned up, and I just putting the charger on there. Anyway, so let's talk about what this has. It's got an always on oil scavenging pump. So this is the scavenging sump, and obviously low points in a radial have to have somewhere the oil goes. So anytime you turn on the master, this scavenging pump goes. There's a secondary scavenging pump, this one, which was out of a or no, it's an aftermarket rear differential cooling scavenging pump. So that pump, you can control it, and at low RPMs you need this extra capacity. This isn't quite enough to scavenge the engine at low RPMs, and it starts loading up and blowing smoke. So it scavenges the oil, puts the oil up into this tank, full capacity 6 quarts, and minimum is 4 quarts. And you can kind of see down here there's a shutoff valve for the oil. So if you leave this on, then it basically gravity drains into the engine, into the scavenging sump. And then this Rotex has auto drains on the intake. So the intake comes from this the internal portion where the cam is. Not the cam. What am I thinking? Basically, the fuel delivery comes through here from the carb and gets dispersed in here, but also oil gets flung around in here because it's exposed to the interior of the engine. So you've got drains on both sides, and they're auto drains, and they drip right out of here. Those two drips. The other thing that Chuck and his friend did was they modified this exhaust. Used to be a dual exhaust, and they both pipes would come down here, but they modified it so that it basically goes up and around over, and then it comes, all of them exhaust out here, goes to this one here, so you get all 7 cylinders cycling through the exhaust here. Okay, what else? What else to notice? So it's got your typical carb heat setup. I do want to put an air filter on here. This is the air intake, so I'm not super thrilled about that. So I'm going to try and figure out how to get a filter in there. This is the brake line to the master cylinder reservoir. It's right here, the brake cylinders. Let's see. So yeah, interesting. The the engine manufacturers talk about the props that they want that are designed to go on the airplane. So it came with a wooden prop. You probably, if you watch my other videos, you'll see it. If I'm the one I was taxiing down the runway with, just to check the ground handling. Wooden prop, came with the Rotec. It was a 76 with a 55 pitch. And of course they say, rule of thumb I found was, if you go from a 2-bladed prop to a 3-bladed prop, then you shorten the diameter by about 10%. Or you can adjust the pitch. This prop is just slightly less than 10% reduction in width. So I had to figure out how to get a 55-inch pitch on this prop. So a little bit of math, and I found it seemed to be really close to 16 degrees on the blade. And Warp Drive has you measure the blade angle like right here relative to the flat here. So about 16 is what I came up with. So I set them all to 16. I haven't done a ground run. This should get a prop RPM, static RPM run up of about 2,000 RPM. So since this is an always on, this is a circuit breaker for that pump. And engine hours, you can see that. And this is kind of a remote for that oil shutoff valve, which you have to open up every time you start. So, Rotac being a radial, I mean, it really is a radial. They recommend you pull the plugs out and, pull it over, make sure there's no oil in the cylinders. Last thing you want to do is bend a rod because you've got oil in the cylinders, just in case those drains off the intake didn't cut it and you didn't run the pump and drain all the oil out like you're supposed to on shutdown. Whatever it takes to protect it. So a little different from Dynodons is these are not actual radiators. This is just for show, but this is a working air intake. I don't know how well you can see it. Oh, but okay, so some of the things Chuck was trying to, before he passed away, he was trying to get this set up to get FAA certified with as a light sport, which was at the time no retracts. So he took a lot of the retractable components out and put some straight pieces of aluminum up in the landing gear, up in here, which I've pulled out and put the proper hardware back in. I also noticed that he put undersized heim joints in, so I took out these, drilled them, tapped them, cut them a little bit longer because these extended out really too far, which was a whole nother bag of worms. But anyway, so I put the proper hardware in here, this piece as called out for in the plans. The way he had it set up, which was unfortunate, was that it was leaning forward about 3.5 degrees. So the whole landing gear was forward of the position it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be perpendicular, like to the firewall, to the to the horizontal axis of the airplane, and then parallel with the firewall. So I did quite a bit of work to get these cut down to the right length, drilled, tapped, put new holes in here so that it would I could align these. The whole point was to get these aligned properly, straight up and down, when the tail was up, obviously. Which, as you may or may not know, as you move these back and forth, they pivot on a gear. That's what allows them to swing up and go up and retract and go flat with the wing. Well, when I bought it, not only was the gear leg forward, but the toe was nearly 4 degrees in, and it had to have made, I never taxied it like that because I wanted to check the alignment first. When I found that both sides were toed in about 4 degrees and that these were leaning forward and these were not the proper hardware,